What's going on, everybody? Core Conversations for Tuesday. Happy February. Happy Lunar New Year. Happy Black History Month. It's Valentine's Day this month too, so there's so many things that are going to be talking points for this month. So I'm looking forward to chatting with you all. Cecile, how are you, my friend? Driving? Brandon, what's going on? Augie Doggy, happy Black History Month, my friend. This should be an interesting conversation today. I'm gonna just run it and just see where it goes. No guests, freestyle. This is how we flow. So let's get this going. Hope everyone's doing well. Just gonna put this up here. Core Conversations podcast drop is Andrew Nicholson. So like, subscribe. Sarah, how are you? Join the conversation. Nice. So Sarah, as you're doing that, I'm doing working on some contracts with some schools to do some talks and to bring this book in. And get this book in the schools. So the Frankie Fitness Pilates book, especially over Black History Month, right? This meditative coloring book on Pilates. So Jason Williams has this Frankie Fitness book, and this is something I want to get into school. So we've been talking about this. So just thought that I'd bring it up. And shout out once again to Jason Williams for putting together the book. And I invested in this actually, so I keep forgetting to throw that out there as well, that I actually was an investor in this project. So this is a cool thing. So check that out. It's Frankie Fitness, Adventures of Frankie Fitness. What time's your next class, Sarah? I like the new logo too, by the way. Woo, 10 minutes. Get it. Have fun with that. Congratulations on getting into Momentum Fest, to be an ambassador with them. That's fun. Check out Momentum Fest too, everybody, if you haven't signed up for that. It's coming in May, I believe. I won't be able to go this year. I'll be campaigning, so I wanted to make sure my schedule was clear. Maybe I'll sneak away for the weekend and just go as a participant, but yeah, at this point I just couldn't do it. Sometimes you have to sacrifice, make sacrifices. That's just how it is, right? June, yes, 24, 26, that's right. All right, if you gotta jump off. Don't feel like you need to stay because you're only one in the room. People ebb and flow all the time, so that's good. For those who watch us on the replay later, I'm gonna post, I believe Misty has a workshop tonight. Let me see here. Balanced life, how are you? Yeah, so detoxing positivity. So that is tonight at 7:30. So check out Meet Misty Lynn. I'm gonna put it here in the chat. Meet Misty Lynn. Thanks, Robin. Robin, where are you located? I wonder where are you in the world? I'm in Toronto, Ontario. Well, really Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. So, yes. So that's Misty Lynn's thing. So she has a bunch of presentations, workshops that are part of a series where she's really challenging us to find our voice, find our identity in the work, unapologetically be who we are, and see how that translates to you on the mat, and how you work, and how you interact with other people, and who you welcome in your space. All kinds of good stuff. Hey, Kara. And Steph, good to see you. Long time. California is in the house. Thank you for joining us so early. I know that it's like 7-ish there, so I appreciate that. I'd love to have you on as a guest as well at some point. And it's a freestyle today. I forgot to mention that. So if you would like to join me on screen, you're more than welcome to. Just request to join, or we can just talk like this. And I'm gonna drop some topics on you for today. Kara, if you want to join me, I'd love to have you on. I don't know what your schedules look like this morning, if you're just getting some admin work done. Christina, what's going on? Dad goals as always. And here we go. All right, so while people are just rolling into the screen here, if you have any online classes, workshops, workouts that are lined up, please let me know. Sorry, my background's bothering me. Please let us know so we can cheer you on. I mentioned Misty's already, so if you have anything else that's going on, please put it in there. And I have a special co-host who's starting with me tomorrow. A co-host, someone who's going to roll in with me on Wednesdays through the month of February and hopefully beyond. and we're just gonna do it. And we'll just tag team, ask some questions, and just enjoy the conversation. So that's the plan for that. What else do you have going on? Kara, I think you had a workout last night. If you want to talk about that, or just if that's coming up. Coach K, what's up? And Kay, if you want to join me, I'm going to talk real quick right now about Black History Month. The title is, what does Black History Month mean to you this year? And the reason why I put it that way is because last year and the year before, there was so much hype around it and such a sense of urgency to do something, say something, be something with it, that I'm wondering how you feel about this year. So I see Kara just requested to join, so I'll bring her on first, and we'll just. Hi.
Hey,
What's going on?
you caught me. You know, I'm always doing it then when I jump in at 10 o'clock.
Yes, you got your lovely space there in the background. What's going on, Sheree?
And in my studio, you know.
I am looking forward to coming by and throwing down a workout sometime soon.
Let's make it happen now that we can be.
Mm.
I'm so excited to have people back in, you know?
Yeah, not have to like crawl through the back door and.
Yeah, or like everything online, you know?
Mhm.
As much as it provides opportunities and creates opportunities, you know, I was the last couple of weeks, I wasn't feeling as connected, as
Yes.
grounded, you know? I just
Mhm.
missed having some of those in-person, having that combination of like in-person and virtual, just
Sure.
a difference for my headspace, I find, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. I just like, you feel like devoid of that human touch, right? Like that there's something to think. I actually, now, so Kara joined me for one of my online classes. I was offering some free, like virtual classes for the community in the, like kind of in the place of one of the community classes. So last night I did my first live class back at the community center, and one of the people from the Nextdoor app, like, was there in person.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, so like for those of you who don't know, I have a community center class, a few community classes, and when we shut down here in Ontario,
Mhm.
I offer some free classes and said, this is your chance to learn the system, learn about Pilates. If you're too scared to go and walk into a class, take the next few weeks to learn the language, feel the exercises in your body, and then as soon as we close, like, this class is done and I want you to come to the studio. And this person wasn't in my class, but like they had followed the Nextdoor app, so they've been following along. So we start to make that connection. So I'm going to keep drawing people in. And I just use that space to use that time to just, bolster this business, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All about making more connections with people, right? And meeting them where they're at, wherever that is. And sometimes
Yes.
that's starting online and then getting them in person.
Hmm.
Right?
I have two topics I want to talk about all month long.
Okay.
Okay.
All month.
All month long. I'm going to keep bringing them up. I'm going to weave them into every conversation. One, Black History Month,
Mhm.
and what that means this year.
Yeah.
And two, ready for this?
Yeah.
Interracial relationships.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we'll just put that one on the shelf for right now.
Well, I'm just like, okay, yeah, you see me.
Yes. Yes. And you see me, right? So, I mean, but sometimes we don't see that. But
Mhm.
there's like,
Okay, and we're putting it on the shelf, but I'm gonna
yes,
add on the
yes,
shelf, like
take
talking
it off the
about,
shelf. I guess.
yeah, take it off the shelf just for a second, because we've had this conversation in my 30-30 strong group, is also what allyship looks like
Hmm.
amongst BIPOC folks. So what does it look like to be, let's say, a South Asian person who is an ally to
Hmm.
the Black community, and vice
Okay.
versa, right? And
Right.
how do we support that? And so,
Nice.
so I just to sort of add on that when we talk about interracial relationships, that's not necessarily just black and white. There's
Right.
there's some nuance in there too.
Yes. Yeah. Well said. My pen. I'll put that in the mix for later.
Are you going to share who your Wednesday host is, or are you just keeping that Like,
I'm keeping
why,
that under
why
wraps, my friend.
get under wraps?
I
Gosh.
Yes, I was reluctant to even tell Alex. Like my wife was just like, "Oh, come on, you can't even tell me." I'm like, all right, fine, here it is.
That's harsh, friend. I can't even do it tomorrow. I'm working tomorrow. I can't.
So
I'm gonna have to
yes,
find out after the fact.
that's okay. They'll be here. They'll be
Okay.
here. They'll
Okay.
be here. But Black History Month, and even going
Yeah.
back to the tile, right? Like that black square that people put up. I don't know about you, but I feel like there was such a crazy sense of urgency to do something, be somewhere, say something, find somebody
Mhm.
that this year, like,
It's gone.
by now, yeah, it's gone. Like we were even at a city level. I don't want to mock the city by any means, but there's a sense of we were preparing for stuff, and I haven't like there's no word on what we're preparing for. Like it's
Mhm.
yes, yeah,
Did you see my post yesterday?
I did.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
I was getting at that yesterday, right? That, there was that sense of urgency. All of
Mhm.
those, every book that mentioned anything um,
Yep.
about anti-racism was number one on the,
Hmm.
on the book list. Everyone was buying it. It was on everyone's shelf and virtual shelf. And now no one wants to talk about it. Right. So and I've said it already, my 30/30 strong group, which is for those who are listening and haven't heard me talk about it before, it's a group that I host for BIPOC women. We meet every week for a 30-minute workout and a 30-minute conversation. And then we have a Facebook group where we post extra stuff, podcasts and books and things like articles, things like that. And
Yes.
our conversation this week is going to be around this exactly that you're talking about, is what
Hmm.
happened in the last,
Yes.
18 months ish, that there went from that sense of urgency to now it almost doesn't quite feel safe to bring it up in certain circles anymore.
Mm.
you know um,
Yeah.
what happened to that sense of urgency? um, I mean, we've got in Ottawa, we've got white supremacists walking, marching through the streets right now.
Right.
um, what like this is I don't even know what to think about Black History Month right now.
Yeah. I wasn't thinking it was feeling safe. I almost felt like it was there was enough of a tide change that if you are in a setting where they're not talking about it and you bring it up, more people will have a vocabulary around it.
Hmm.
They'll be more sensitive to it, but no one's being proactive anymore.
No, no. And
No
I
one's general
kind of
statement, but like, you know what I
bringing
mean?
up that feeling of safe is, we've got some of those books are being banned now, right?
Right. Yeah.
um, there's you sort of you probably see me post as well that in my laneway, I guess it was November, I had someone spray paint across from what used to be my garage studio something that was had this racist tinge to it. Painted
Yes.
over it a month later, same spot, someone spray painted Trump 2024. And when I walk around my neighborhood, every single laneway has that. And so it feels like a letting us know that they're there, you know,
Yes.
a let
Yes.
like, just as much as we were openly speaking about the the dangers and the risks and the realities, I guess I should say, of white
Hmm.
supremacy in Canadian society. Now they're letting us know, oh, we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, we're here. And so that's where it feels like, oh gosh, like, yeah, it feels a little shakier. It's hard to just,
Mm. How do you feel then as a studio owner, like a bricks and mortar owner in that
yeah.
space now? Like, I mean, there's more on the line,
Yeah, so I'm in a different space now, right?
right?
Than I was back in November. I'm a storefront. I actually just I should walk outside and show you. I have on my window ledge, I have a little rainbow, but I also have a little sign and where I can, announce different things that are happening. But anyhow,
Yeah.
today Black Lives Matter, and I'm going to change it every day for the month. I felt a little nervous, putting that up, to be honest with you. Because the store that's right beside me, the bar that's right beside me, is quite well known in the neighborhood. That the owner is a supporter of Faith Goldie, who ran for city council here in Toronto and is a known far-right extremist. So, but I sort of made the decision that he doesn't get to own the block.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He doesn't get to own all of that. And some people were asking me, like, are you sure you want to open up a studio right beside him? And it's like, well, why does he get to own all this space?
Right.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
Good
so
for you.
Okay. I feel okay. I know that I've got great people in my community around me and great people to support me, right?
Yep. You got backup.
I got backup. Yeah. You'll drive in from Mississauga, right?
Oh man, I'll parachute in. Yeah, I got you. I got you for sure. But and it's so funny, in Mississauga, one of the things that they're talking about right now is identifying Black businesses, right? And because people like myself, I'm just trying to run a business. Like I'm not like it doesn't say Black-owned business all over the place, and for whatever the reason is. So the flip side of that is they're now trying to identify Black businesses so that they can support Black businesses, because people like me exist just trying to do business. And the result of that, I mean, that's good on one level, but the other level is that when they're trying to find support and to document and to see how they grow and all those different things, there's no data whatsoever.
Right. It's interesting. I was talking with a client yesterday who's in nursing about the lack of data around in Black healthcare, that we know that that race is a determinant of health, but there is an unwillingness to actually collect data. So, to ask a patient how they identify themselves racially, there's a real resistance to doing that. Right? But at the same time, we know that race is a determinant of health. So how, the data needs to be collected so that we can actually do something about it. To improve the health and wellness of communities. And so but by trying to collect data about Black business, well, where are those Black businesses? How can we support them better? How can we, support other Black entrepreneurs and business owners in getting into different communities as well?
Yes, absolutely. And that's an age-old story too, right? Because as I've been diving into stories around Black history, you see stories like the Black Pioneer Cemetery that's out near Orangeville, where there's all these, it was like a deserted cemetery, and then that Black township there, over time, as couples interracially married, people would identify as Scottish instead of Black, because that would mean they'd still be able to get a house, or Irish instead of Black. So if they're half Irish, half Black, they'd identify as Irish so that they could still get access to certain things. So it was advantageous to not acknowledge the Black side of their family. So then it gets diluted, like from the 1800s here, where people would identify as Black, and then on the next census they'd identify as not disclosed, and on the next census the person would identify as Scottish, the same person. So they'd show how lineage, it was just like, okay, I'm getting nothing while I say I'm Black, let me put myself as undisclosed, let me put it as Scottish, and that was happening. That's census data shows that's what people were starting to do, just because it wasn't to their advantage to share that they were Black on a census.
Wow, right? And you think, and then you sort of start to wonder, like, how much has that changed, right? That generational sort of knowledge that if you identify in a certain way, you may have less access to, let's say, getting a mortgage.
Right?
That's what it came down. That's what it comes down to.
Yep. Crazy.
And so, what are your topics for the month? Are you going to hint at them, or are you going to just drop them on us from day one?
Yeah, I'm gonna drop them on us from time to time, and it's almost like they're just like themes that I'm listening for that I'm going to weave into the conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I pulled some, like I had, well, Misty had my wife and I on a few months ago, and we were just talking about relationships, and then she had a story that I caught. I'm not even sure I'm gonna put it up today or not, but I'll tell you. There was the time last summer where we were at this car show just in the area here. And as we were walking, I kind of tricked her into going to this car show with me. I said, like, let's go out for ice cream, whatever. And then we pulled up and it's like, oh, look, there's all these Porsches here. Awesome. And she's like, I'm going to Winners. Bye. So as she was walking away, she gave me a kiss and then she walked over to Winners. And as she was walking, there was a black lady that was sitting in her car. And the lady just kind of flagged down Alex and was just like, I just want to let you know I could just see the love that you have for your husband. Like she's sitting, like she's in her car, just having a moment of peace and quiet before going back to her screaming family and stuff. So she saw this happen like way down in the distance. So when Alex finally walked up to her, she said, I just saw the love that you have for your husband. And it's so sweet. I'm here talking to my mom on the phone. And I was like, oh, look at this couple, blah, blah, blah. And so she had this conversation with Alex, and it was like this affirming
Mm-hmm.
of love that people see it from the outside in. It was kind of interesting how that's like that was this Jamaican lady's perspective of my wife and I.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the rhetoric a lot of times is there goes another good black man,
Mm.
gone to another white woman, that sort of thing, right? So you hear that rhetoric. So for my wife to get this rhetoric from a Jamaican lady saying, that's so sweet, I see your love, you're such a lovely couple, it was like, oh, that's affirming, right? So that's the sort of thing that I want to talk about, you
Yeah.
know?
And I mean, there is that, I guess it comes down to that assumption that instead of focusing on those affirmations of love, that folks in the Black community are always focused on, you know, why is that Black man with that white woman? Like that's an assumption. That's a stereotype. That's what people are always focusing on in
Right.
communities. And we need to hear more stories of that. That's beautiful. Like
Hmm.
that love between you and your wife is so apparent that someone just
Yes.
needed to acknowledge it.
Yes. Yeah. So
Love it.
yeah. So that's what's up.
Okay. Okay.
But but yeah.
I will
Um,
pop in whenever I can, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to a couple more points here, but I'll let you go because I know I'm taking
Yeah,
your admin time right now.
I am coming in like 2 minutes. So
Do it.
thanks
Okay.
so much.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right. Good to see you, Robin. Coach K left. Too bad. I was gonna just have him come on, but there's some of my thoughts that I had on this black tile, that the blacks, the black tile that people used to have put on that one day, and it's kind of like all over the map, but these are my reflections on it. On one level, it was lip service. Like, it's just like everyone's doing it. Let me do it too. Let me avoid being called out. Let my business avoid being called out by putting this up here. And as it was said at the time, I looked at your 5 posts before that black tile and your 5 posts after that black tile to see if there's any consistency with your character, with your business's character. Were you saying things? Were you amplifying voices? Were you shouting people out? Or were you just doing your own thing, just chasing your own money? And then, oh, everyone's on this page, so let me just do this Black Lives Matter thing like everybody else. So I felt like to some degree, for some people, it was lip service. It was just something you do that's performative. On the other side of it too, I felt like it was something that opened doors. And I know I've had like Tasha Edwards on here and other amazing black educators come on and say, all of a sudden everyone is calling me. All of a sudden people are looking for me to do speaking engagements. All of a sudden I'm getting invites to speak at conferences. So because of this guilt, awareness, wokeness, whatever you want to call it, people now feel like now's the time to reach out to who's the first black person I know. Okay, Martin, let's get him to come in and speak. That wasn't happening before. And now these doors are open, which are great because the reality is that we've always been qualified. We've always been knowledgeable. We have always been dynamic, great speakers, and you're just discovering us now. So we're here. We are here. Hashtag we are here was the trend of the day, simply because people recognizing that, oh, I want to have Tasha Edwards come and speak. The reality is that Tasha Edwards has been a great speaker for the last 15 years. You just discovered her. She's been there. So that being said, that's why I feel like those two pieces are the lip service piece and then the open doors piece. And the third part is the patronizing piece. And what I mean by that is there was a tokenization of things that were happening where it's like, okay, well, let's make it look genuine, but let's gather all these people in and let's give them some airtime. And then that fizzles out. So there's some energy and some effort put into it that at the moment we were clapping hands for. And now you see, like 6 months later, a year later, they've ghosted too. So they didn't disappear like right away, but it's almost like they just lost steam. And that's what Karen and I were just talking about a minute ago. We're just like, well, if you bring it back up, they're still aware, but they're not really putting any more effort into it. There's not that much energy being put into it at this point. Moved on to the next thing. We've done our best. We pat ourselves on the back and we move on. So there's a patronizing piece of let's make it look good for a moment. Let's do our best and then just shut her down because there's nothing else that we can do. And then the last one that I have is I feel like it's been reinforcing. And in a way, this is a good thing. And what I mean by that is for the white people who are trying to do good, they now have some ammunition. For those people who are allies, whether you like that term or not, someone who's really genuinely trying to interrupt racism, they now have some backup. They have books, they have people, they have friends. How many times have you heard myself, Martin Phils, Kim Carruthers, Misty as well, Tasha, we're saying, call us, message us, ask us questions. You have resources. So there's reinforcements for those who actually want to do something. Those resources are still there for you. And I'll say it today, right now, they're still there for you. Even if it looks like this is not the flavor of the month anymore, you have questions, ask. You want to do something, find out how. You want to say something and don't want it to come across wrong, you want to just bounce it off somebody, do that. I'm more than happy to do that. So that from that time forward, there are some reinforcements for what you were trying to do as an ally. And I love, love, love the phrase that I think it was, I can't remember who the company was, but they used the phrase turning allies into accomplices. Turning allies into accomplices. So I'm no longer moving from someone who is kind of slightly removed from it and trying to do my best and then bounce when it gets difficult to someone who is just as guilty in the act. I'd love for us to move from allies to accomplices, guilty in this causing trouble, good trouble, to quote John Lewis, of interrupting racism, standing for people, standing in the gap and making sure that we are heard, seen, amplified, supported, valued, all of that. So those are the things, and that's why I'm thinking about, like, what does Black History Month mean for this year? I'm curious to see how it plays out. I'm frustrated that I haven't got invitations to speak and stuff, not because of me, but for us in general. Like, who's being proactive with it? Who's planning stuff? What is going on? Is it the same? And actually, the people that were doing this for years before it became a trend, they're back in the trenches and they're running their thing. So support them. Buy your tickets. Buy your virtual tickets. Cheer them on. I'm sure they're loving their minute in the sun last year when everyone else wanted to support them. But you know what? They're still doing the work. They're still in it, and they need to be applauded for their consistent work, not their temporal work, not their flavor of the month work, but for the everyday hustle that they're on. So I love that so much, and kudos to all of you for that. Roxy, what's going on? It's so good to see you. Just reading these comments. Christina says, love this conversation. Black history matters. Black lives matter. We matter. Can't wait to hear more. Thank you. Diva Steve said, can't wait to stay long. You peeps are awesome. Looking forward to this month's chats. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to have fun with it. Definitely gonna have fun with it. Um, I am. I posted something today, and I want to recap it here because some of you may not see the post or it's gonna get lost down in my feed. So I'll just say it one more time here. I was researching some stuff, and on Sunday morning, here's the whole backstory. Sunday morning, I was going to take a drive up to St. Catharines. What's going on, Jason? I was going to drive to St. Catharines because I wanted to go up to the Harriet Tubman statue. I wanted to stand in front of the statue and do some warm fuzzy, like Happy Black History Month. Look at this. Bet y'all didn't know that we were here in St. Catharines with the Harriet Tubman statue and all that. I might still do that just because I think it's cool. I did find a story about Mississauga, and I found that Mississauga, it's really difficult to find Black history stories. And as I was saying with Kara, the part of the reason why it's difficult to find Black history stories is because, one, Mississauga was a rest point. It was a checkpoint on your way to Owen Sound, St. Catharines, Brantford, out outside of the city limits, away from the water where you're not going to get grief. And actually, this other thing too, as far from the border as possible, because these fugitive slaves were trying to get away from the States. And, newsflash, there was a lot of slavery happening in Toronto, a lot of slavery happening in Canada as well. So the further you're away from the marketplaces and the trades, the better. So they were headed further away. So Mississauga was a checkpoint. So that's one reason why there's not too much Black history in Mississauga. The second reason why is because, as we were saying, censuses. If you were half Black, half white, on the census, you would choose to put mixed, non-disclosed, or your white half, because you were not getting any property, you were not getting a job, not getting access to whatever if you stated that you were Black. So that was the workaround. Stay off the census, stay off the radar. So a lot of that happened as well. There's only a few stories of successful farms. Like there's one at Dundas and Cawthra, I believe it was. There's a massive farm that was owned by a Black family and their children and their children's children. And there's a few other stories like that. So only a few people who settled and prospered. And even then, their complexion was so light that you wouldn't know they were Black. So they got away with it. Between their money and their skin tone, they're good, but they were Black. Also, there's a story of a gentleman by the name of Samuel Carter. And this is a story that I shared on my feed. So you'll see it later, check it, reshare it. Please share the story. Samuel Carter was a gentleman who was enslaved, escaped, but sadly lost his legs due to the cold weather, like exposure to the cold, so he lost his legs. He lived in the Toronto Township, which was Mississauga in the 1800s, and that's where he lived, and he was known in the community. He was loved, liked in the community, the whole nine. As he got on in years, times were tough, obviously, and then I'm sure, like, it's not like you can get a job and find industry in that way, so I'm sure he started to struggle. So they say that, according to the story, that the community came together, city council gave him money, they passed motions to get him finances to kind of help him out, which is amazing, long before social services, right? At the end of his life, the city council once again passed a motion so that they could support him and have him a place to live so he'd be comfortable and safe in his final days. And where he lived, they called it Old Sam's Lane. Old Sam's Lane. So people can go and visit him there. I don't want to embellish the story, but that's the name of it, Old Sam's Lane. Old Sam's Lane is Wesley Lane or Wesley Court, and that's right off of Lakeshore and almost Mississauga Road, so the Port Credit area. So I went up there and went to Old Sam's Lane just to check it out because I thought that's a pretty cool story, and it's a positive story. Black History Month, where it's not like this is what you did, this is what we want back. It was, by contrast, this was like, this was a member of my community. This is how the residents supported him. This is how the politicians and the city council, completely supported him. On three levels, there's people who supported Samuel Carter, Old Sam's Lane in Mississauga, and there's a person right there that was supported, regardless of the color of his skin, for being a member of the community that they wanted to see okay in his final days. So shout out to the city of Mississauga with our 2 stories about Black history and one of them being good. So there you have it. And I'm going to continue to just find those stories. I love digging up these stories because we don't talk about this in school. And as much as you want to say Black History Day is every day and all that stuff, I agree. But I'm going to totally camp out on Black History Month to just bring stories that I know, that I wish that I heard when I was in school. School is like European history, and the rest of the world has a history story that doesn't reconcile with the way that Black people have been taught. So if you were a white person in Europe learning history, and then you read about Black kings in Africa who have more money than the queen, or you hear about Black explorers, or someone like Matthew da Costa who traveled with Samuel de Champlain to Quebec, who was from Africa as a teenager who spoke Mi'kmaq and spoke the indigenous languages and traveled as an interpreter. You'd be sitting in a class and thinking like, wait a minute, if Black people are so powerful, why are we enslaving them? That wouldn't sit right when you hear about what happens in Europe and in the US and in Canada and stuff like that. It wouldn't sit right because kids would know that's just wrong. So the doctrine changed and the history books change and the European history comes to highlight white stories to make them look like they're fantastic. Meanwhile, we are kings. So it's just interesting how now that I'm older and I have to dig to find these stories that they're coming out and I love them. I love them. I love them. So I'm going to share them with you. And that's what is up. Jonathan, how's it going? Train Fresh, how are you? King Dre. That's about it. Anyway, so that's my freestyle. If you want to join me on screen, I'd love to have you come on and just share your reflections on that story. Jason, if you're around, Roxy, if you want to jump on. And tomorrow, my guest host, co-host starts. We have as our guest someone who I wrote down and can't remember right off the top of my head, Letitia. And then Michael Johnson is my guest. So Public Pilates tomorrow. Michael Johnson is so yes, I gotta find the resources for it too. Let me do that. A lot of my resources, actually, thank you so much for reminding that too, Roxy. I was gonna put that in, are like essays. They're like literally essays that people have written that maybe got picked up by InSaga, the Mississauga News or something at the time, and then it just ghosted again. So I, in the same way that I'm sharing a story for your edification, I'm also amplifying the voice of those who wrote these stories. So yes, I'll put that in the comment section as well, because I appreciate the work that they've done. I don't want to co-opt it and pretend that I, found the story myself or wrote it myself. Hey, that ain't the plan. Yes. So, Mr. Spread Love, Jason, if you have, I'd love to hear what's going on with your clothing line and what you got coming up. Is there any Black history stuff that's coming up? Can we buy, support? Where can we find your gear? And I love sharing the story about this shirt here. This is part of my conversation I had with Jessica Vallant with Momentum Fest. And just a quick reminder, like I said, we are here. That as much as the person that we look at in social media has it all together, and that they're really smart and they're really strong and they're a really good teacher and they're really influential. Just a reminder that so am I. Hope that you could say that about yourself as you build your business and you build your brand and you build yourself, that you don't look upon yourself as lesser than, at best, at least I should say, equal to, if not better. Like I say to my kids and my son in basketball, I want you to say that you're the best person on your team. And I want everyone on the team to say that they're the best person on their team. Walk with that confidence. Don't be threatened by someone else's confidence, and just live out your truth in that way. And I think this goes the same for me in this Pilates studio. I want to be the best teacher in the country. I think there's some great teachers out there, but I want to be it, right? So if you want to chase after that thing, unapologetically be you, stand in your truth and stand in who you are. Don't be disappointed or discouraged by what you don't know, and just stand in what you do know. That's your public service announcement for today. I don't know if I have anything else to say. If you have anything to share, please put it in the comment section before I shut this down. And I'm going to repost this later. I'm going to find my sources so I can post them as well. And that's about it. Stay tuned. Letitia is our guest tomorrow. Co-host is coming up. And yeah, it's going to be a fun time. Perfect. All right. All right, party people. I am out. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow, 10 o'clock. We do this every day. Still, as much as I thought that we'd be done by now, y'all keep saying yes, so I keep coming back. Take care. See you guys tomorrow. Core Conversations.